Hello, I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm the host for this podcast, Different Thinking for Different Times, Season 6, Episode 16. So what I'm going to talk about today is, again, based on what I learned the day I died, November 8th, 2002. At that point, I had been in intensive care for 5 days because my pancreas shut down. 1 second, I was fine, and due to a calcium blockage in my pancreatic duct, I needed an ambulance. And I've recapped this before, and that I was grateful immediately. It was the most amazing feeling that overcame me. I wasn't worried about anything that this brain, this acorn brain that I talk about, this little small-minded voice in my head. When I ask people, thankfully, most people report they have it. And being grateful surprised people. They were asking me while waiting for the ambulance, "How you doing, Steve?" And I said, "I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful." It was overwhelming. I had no thoughts about dying or fear of the future. I was truly in the now. And that's fascinating because 5 days later, when I flatlined, I was 1 second in intensive care with 2 friends at the end of my bed, and the next second, I was one with everything and nothing. I was one with the infinite, one with God, one with immense light and mercy and grace. And, none of that does it justice. It's just funny that as back in my body, I realized humans are funny. We think like God, and we even picture God with a body and a form. And really, if you think about it, we're always in the now, which means this body actually has no name, no identity, and no form. And that's where I was. This existence is temporary, very temporary when you consider the universe has been around for 13.8 billion years, or at least that's what physicists are thinking. They say they can prove it. Whenever they finally say they know what created this, all you have to ask them is, well, what created that? It goes on forever, the idea. We'll never truly know until we're one with it, and then we don't have this little brain. We don't have that voice that judges everything, because that's not what resides in the now. I am not my body. And I have to work at that every day, because back in my body, all these little thoughts, what I call small-minded thinking, came back. And that's what led me to discovering we can train the mind. We can reprogram the mind. And mostly it's negative thinking. Now, positive thinkers, Pollyanna thinkers might say, "Oh no, I'm mostly positive." Okay, I know everyone has some negative thoughts, and I'll allow that people might have more positive thoughts than negative. It's just that in our DNA, negative thoughts helped us, and they still help us. Because when we're complaining or have a grievance about some condition in our life, negative thoughts motivate us to rise above them and create something new. It's where and how we left the cave. We decided we wanted something better, and that quest for something better stems from dissatisfaction or negative thoughts about our current conditions. So negative thoughts, one great way to overcome them and to reprogram your mind is to just let them be and acknowledge that they're urging you to change some condition you're in, whatever it is, whether it's a relationship or a job. And I don't mean changing it by changing the job or the spouse, and it might be the case. It's just that you may need to change. If you don't like your experience of the world, change how the world is experiencing you. And so much of this thinking, this little small-minded thinker, gets enrolled and enraged by things we can't control. I mean, if you think about the last 8 or 9 years, politics are just absolutely driving people crazy, which they cannot control. One president gets elected, okay. I don't care. I don't know. I don't care. I can't control it. I have one vote. So he's the president. The next election, somebody else gets elected. I don't care. I don't know, and I don't care. I'm not going to let that interfere with my day or steal my joy. And of course, so many people allow themselves to have derangement syndromes. It doesn't matter who gets elected, because What we've done in this country is we have two sides, Democrat and Republican, and I believe the two-party system no longer serves us, that we should have more parties. I think the independent party should become an official party, and perhaps we need 2 or 3 more. I kid my friends and say maybe we need as many as baseball teams, because then we wouldn't have this angst and this angry and sometimes violent reaction to whomever's in office. And then when we disagree with people, we don't allow a dialogue anymore, and that's small-minded thinking. Some people can't even have the other side at their dining room table anymore, even if it's family. That's how small-minded we are. And if you think God thinks like that, you are way off, at least in my experience. I don't try to convince anybody of it. That's not godlike. Now, this experience, though, is all God, that God is never absent. There was only the now when I didn't have my body. And it was just a knowing. There was no conversation like we have or like we're having now or this with this voice. That little voice didn't go with me. And so the knowing was I was one with everything and nothing, one with God, one with the infinite, the goddess, the Abraham, the Buddha, the Brahma, the Muhammad, the Christ, the Vedic tradition. It had no name. It had no sex, no identity, no name, no form. And that's what we become. We move from this to that. In fact, I say that we should call death what's next. We should eliminate calling it death. And we're afraid to live. When Einstein was asked what formed his idea of God, he would answer 2 ways. One was the superior reasoning power that created this unimaginable universe forms my idea of God. The other way that he would answer was, go read the God of Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza wrote this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he wrote this in the 1600s. And here's what he wrote. I'm going to just give you a sample. God would say, stop praying and giving yourself blows on your chest. What I want you to do is go out into the world and enjoy your life. I want you to sing, have fun, and enjoy everything I've made for you. Stop going into those gloomy, dark, and cold temples. Now, he was Orthodox Jew at the Jewish and was shunned from his community because he wrote this. Stop going into those gloomy, dark, and cold temples that you built yourself and that you call my home. My house is in the mountains, in the forests, the rivers, the lakes, the beaches. That's where I live and express all my love for you. Stop blaming me for your miserable life. I never told you there was anything wrong with you or that you were a sinner. See, that's all man-made. It's been written about by humans who had this little voice. Whatever holy book you're reading or any holy person that posited about how it all works, they had this acorn brain, this small-minded thinker. And if it sounds small-minded, it's not what created a universe. Like I said, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. In fact, when I was younger, I was going to be a Catholic priest until I knew that wouldn't work when I met a young lady on the high school bus. And thankfully, I didn't take that path. What I did do is study many, many of the other faiths, Kabbalah, the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith. Of course, I was a Christian, so there was a deeper study in the Christian faith. And reading all the writings, I could see where that small-minded thinker came in even before I had this near-death experience. Angry, vengeful God is human. That's a human condition. It's not. It doesn't come from what created a universe. Let me go on a little bit more with what the God of Spinoza, Baruch Spinoza, wrote. Stop reading alleged sacred scriptures that have nothing to do with me. If you can't read me in a sunrise, in a landscape, in the look of your friends, in your son's eyes, you will find me in no book. Stop being so scared. I do not judge you nor criticize you, nor am I ever angry with you. Nothing bothers me, nor do I devise punishment. I am pure love. The next paragraph, now this goes on further, but I am going to read this next paragraph. Stop asking for forgiveness. I do not judge you. There's nothing to forgive. If I made you, I filled you with passions, limitations, pleasures, feelings, needs, and inconsistencies of free will. How can I blame you if you respond to something I put in you? How can I punish you for being as you are if I'm the one who made you? Do you think I could create a place to burn all my children who misbehave for the rest of eternity? What good would that do? What kind of God can do that? Respect your peers and don't do to others what you don't want for yourself. All I ask is that you pay attention in your life, that your alert status is your guide. So there it is, right? Written in the 1600s. I think he probably had a near-death experience, or maybe an out-of-body experience, because many people have written about experiences that where they were out of their body and it was not near death. And you can read a lot of those. David R. Hawkins, in all of his works, talks about having out-of-body experiences, spiritual experiences, where he felt the presence of the now, of God. And I recommend any of his work. R.J. Spina wrote Superconsciousness. It's something that, again, you're going to find many thoughts that are in alignment with what I've been talking about. Indistractable by Nir Eyal and Julie Lee. Indistractable. Again, talks about how we are one with the energy of the universe. And when we align with things that energize us, that we love to do, again, we're in alignment with what created a universe. And you have to prove this to yourself by challenging and changing your own thinking. That's up to you. You can continue to live your life believing the one faith that you believe in should be believed in by everybody, and it's the only way you'll get into heaven. Again, it's small-minded. If it sounds small-minded, it didn't come from the creator of a universe that is in all of us. And we forget that, of course, because when we see other humans misbehave, we judge that because we think it shouldn't be. But without the contrast, think about this for a moment. Without that contrast, would we even know we were alive? If we were all goody two-shoes, we wouldn't know we were alive. And then, by the way, people would find fault with that because we're human. So here's what I want you to experiment with. Are you part of this limited, small-minded thinker, or are you part of something larger? And what's possible for you? What if you decided to just allow everything? Like Christ said, everything works together for good. So that means everything is good. Muhammad said what reaches you was never meant to miss you. And what misses you was never meant to reach you. So what if you just allow what reaches you and allow what misses you? Allow what doesn't. Allow what reaches you and allow what leaves you. Because it's part of your experience here and probably created, at least in my opinion and in my experience, by your own small-minded thinker. That your thinking is an energy. Thoughts are things. They're energy. And we live in something amazing, infinite, that we, by the way, we call it infinite to give it definition for this acorn brain. Physicists think they're fairly close to, or much closer than to discovering how this whole thing works. I think we're as far off as the Incas and the Aztecs were when they thought they were close. So they were sacrificing babies and princesses to satisfy the gods. Now, I'm not discouraging anyone from having a faith or a religion. I think it's good. It's wonderful, except when you start making others wrong. Now, that's also maybe part of your path, because making others wrong, being negative, will wake you up to something better. You'll want something more someday. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. All I know is what I experienced. 1 second in intensive care in this body, the next second, one with everything and nothing. Immense light, mercy, grace, and those words don't do it justice. This little thinker, this little voice in my head didn't go with me. I was an observer, one with the master observer, one with God, like a drop of water in the ocean. I was a drop in the infinite. Then there was a life review, and only the lives I had touched, only the good I had done was mentioned. Think about that. Think about how you feel when you do good, and humans are worried about doing sin and making others wrong because they're sinning and they're sinners. Did you learn to walk without ever falling? Well, that's life. You're going to fall. Christ fell. You're going to fall. You're going to get up. You learn something from it and you grow. Muhammad wasn't perfect. Neither are any of the prophets that are written about. And then, of course, when they talk about vengeance and that God directed them to kill others, and again, if it sounds small-minded, I want you to consider, is that what created this miracle we live in? This thing that we cannot define? It's so large that we can't see it. We don't understand it. Lisa Randall's talking about that. As many little things as we cannot see, right? Things so tiny that we need electron microscopes. And probably there's things even smaller than those microscopes can see. Her theory is there are things so large in the universe that we can't see them, including that which we live in, which is the energy and the creative force of God. And we're here to experience all these things: winning, losing, having a lot, having nothing, helping others, not helping others, being angry, vengeful, judgmental. Because if we didn't experience those things, we would not make new choices. This is part of the growth of humanity, the miracle God gave us. Now that's up to you. Like I said, you have to prove it to yourself. After all, one of the books I wrote was You Might Be Full of Shit If. There it is over there, over my shoulder. You might be full of shit if. And I talk about that. Follow anything or anyone blindly. That's one of my chapters. That it's up to us not to follow people blindly. I mean, just take a look at religions, political parties, et cetera, et cetera. They all have meetings or conventions. I'm surprised no one gets up and says, all right, let's drink the Kool-Aid now at those conventions or meetings and conferences. We love being right, and we love finding some cause to jump behind. That's where cults came about. What if there was no cause? What if you're only supposed to enjoy every moment? Because the day that I needed an ambulance, 1 second I was fine. I never had any symptoms, never had any health issues, or certainly not any pancreas issues. And then 5 days later, after surviving for 5 days acute necrotizing pancreatitis, I had an anterior myocardial infarction. So I survived 2 major health challenges in 5 days. And I have no symptoms today. And many miracles occurred while I was in the hospital. 100 days altogether, 60 days straight, and 40 out of the next 60. And 6 months out of work, but $24,000 came in the mail. 5 job offers. You think I was filling out resumes? And then people that were asking me, how could I be grateful? Because they would ask me. I remember an intern coming in, or probably a resident. He had interns with him. Coming in one day, he was a tall string bean of a guy, 6'5", 6, who knows, maybe 7. And this is the first time I had seen him, and he asked me, how you doing, Mr. Lentini? I said, Doc, I'm grateful. And by that point, I had been in probably a month in the hospital. His face got scrunched up and said, what could you be grateful for? I said, Doc, read the chart. He had it in his hand. So he took a second and looked at all the different pages in the chart, and he said, oh, I'm sorry. I see. I didn't go into explaining. I was grateful even waiting for the ambulance. Somehow I felt the divine presence, the infinite, and that I was already in what's next. I was in the now fully. And I'm embarrassed to say I was 50, and I had not yet been in the now like that, totally, fully, completely, until I needed the ambulance. That's when it started. And now back in my body, every day I have to work on reminding myself of that event, which I had the gift of that, remembering that all the lives I had touched, all the good I had done was the only thing mentioned in my life review. Not sin. I can't say I wasn't a sinner. I had made my mistakes. I could tell you only the good I had done. People I had bought sandwiches for flashed before me. People I had given money to. people I'd helped move, people I'd helped across the street, people I helped find a job. Of course, family and friends were there. Again, it's a knowing. I was surrounded by the presence of those who had gone to what's next and only the good I had done. Again, I was 50 and embarrassed to say I had no idea how many lives I had touched and how important that is, which is what I do today. I get up every day with the idea of leaving everything and everyone a little better than I find them. Now, I'm not urging you to do anything, but try it. Make your life an experiment. Live fully in this gift that God gave us. Enjoy your life. Stop complaining and having grievances about people. Look for the gift. Life is a gift. Life is for you. It's for me anyway. And when I feel like I'm shut off or frustrated or stuck, I know I have to change. So I just remind myself, because this brain, it loves a complaint. So I remind myself to go back to, okay, wait a minute, there's a gift in this. God is never absent. The infinite is never absent. It's always with us. In fact, my next book is 24-Hour Good News. The infinite walks with us. Here, I'll show you the cover. I have it here, 24-Hour Good News. And I have a website, 24hourgoodnews.com, and I just purchased 24hourgoodnews.org. And I'd like that to become a spot where people report all the good that they see others doing. Because to report your own good may be a little ego inflating. But when you catch others doing good, or someone does good for you, or they surprise you, or there's a miracle in your life, please send it to me. Send me the information about it. If you have pictures or a video, whatever it is, send it to me and I'll post it on the website so that we as humans start talking about the impact of doing good. So after the life review, I was asked a question by a voice I cannot describe. Stay or go? That was my best impression of it. And my consciousness surrendered with thy will be done. And I was right back in intensive care. Same two friends at the end of my bed. And sometime later, I finally could speak about it because I was processing the events. Because while I was there was no past or future. There was only the now. That's why I say this is where God is, that he's never absent or she's never absent. Whatever you want to call the creative life force is never absent. We withdraw ourselves from it because we sink into complaints and grievances and wanting things different than what they are. It's like the Buddha said, desire is the root of all suffering. Just allow what shows up, allow what leaves you. Allow what hasn't yet shown up, right? Don't lament anything. And finally, I said to my two friends, when I could put it all together, something happened. And they both said in unison, oh, you flatlined. The nurses and doctors, your alarms were going off. They came rushing in, saying, out, this is it, call his family. Now, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just reporting what happened to me. And that I learned and changed my life totally to doing good. Sharing what I have, whether it's time, treasure, or talent. And reminding people we live in a miracle because most people are stuck in their heads with some kind of grievance or complaint. And it's those grievances and complaints that are keeping your good from you. And it might be a lesson, a gift, a lesson, and it might be life-changing things that occur, like me getting a job offer, 5 of them while I'm laying in the hospital, $1,000 coming in the mail. Now, I left the hospital with many other debts and bills, which it took me 5 or 6 years to pay off completely. And friends were urging me, go bankrupt. You were in the hospital. You can explain it to everybody. And you were out of work 6 months. You were in the hospital 100 days. No, because it was an energy, and I knew doing good. Don't forget the lesson I was shown. Doing good would benefit me and all those around me. So if you have any questions, by the way, you can email me. Here, I'll show you this is one of the books that I've written, How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. But I want to show you Steve Lentini. All you got to do is email steve@stevelentini.com. steve@stevelentini.com. And I will have you as a guest on the podcast, or you can come on and challenge me. Remember, I might ask you, now, does that sound like small-minded thinking? My next guest is going to be Ed Rahill. Wrote a fascinating book. I'm going to show it to you. This is This is Ed Rahill. He's going to be my next guest, and he wrote a fascinating book that I'm reading, 1 Mile at a Time. It talks about his journey of life and him doing the most amazing auto race around the country. It's quite a story because he was, well, I won't spoil it. Buy the book. It's quite a story, especially if you're interested in how he created this adventure of a lifetime and what challenges he faced and what it taught him and how he got there. Okay, so that's enough for me today. Again, this is something I love to do. It's not something I earn income from. It's just something I'm reminding people about how to look at life differently, expanding from small-minded thinking into limitless thinking that mirrors what we live in, an infinite universe. It's limitless, which baffles the mind, right? They even ponder the word limitless for a while. If it sounds small-minded, it didn't come from God or the creator or whatever you call it, the quantum field. It had no name, no form, no identity, and we become one with it. But don't take my word for it. In fact, I wish everybody had the experience I had, not before this podcast ends, because we wouldn't be so petty. And we need to have all the chaos and conflict, because without it, we wouldn't know we were alive. We need all the differences. We need all the different creatures that God created so that we can learn to allow them all. Allow people to have their journey. Let them have whatever it is they're going through, whether it's a challenge or what you might call evil. So what? So what? I don't know, and I don't care. All right. Again, Steve at Steve Lentini. I showed you how to spell it. You can go back through the video if you'd like. And if you have any questions, email me or come on the show and challenge me. Thank you.